we are going to be working a lot with adding fractions. So yesterday was just the beginning. Hopefully it made sense. We're going to go over that in a moment, but we need to add another layer. And so we need to talk about what it takes to get what's called simplest form. So first thing you're going to need to do is just copy this down in your folder. This will be sort of the mathematics behind it, and then we'll do some modeling and applying of it. You need to both copy this down in your folder, and you need to end up with a sticky note that looks like this so that you will be able to keep your sticky note with you and look over at it for the next couple of days as you are simplifying your final answers. So to get simplest form, the easy way to think of it is you are dividing by the same number. So in a fraction, you have a numerator and a denominator. You must divide the numerator by a given number, and you must divide the denominator by that same number. Your answers will be different, but the number that you divide by must be the same for both the numerator and the denominator. So there are some shortcuts to making sure whether or not you have a common factor, a number that you can divide the top and bottom by. So here are your steps to get that number to divide by, that common factor. The first thing you do, you look at your fraction. The example I've given you is 4/28. And you ask, does the top number times anything equal the bottom number? Well, yeah, 4 times 7 is 28, right? Which means I can divide the top and bottom by 4. So I'm using my numerator as the common factor. What number times 4 equals 4? That would be a 1. What number times 4 equals 28? That would be a 7. That is your final answer. That is in simplest form. One way you can check it is you will have smaller numbers at the end of simplifying your fraction. It will show exactly the same amount, but 1 is smaller than 4 and 7 is smaller than 28. The next thing you ask yourself, what if you have a fraction like 12/26? 12 times 2 is 24, so I can't divide 26 by 12. The next thing I need to look at then is, are they both even? In this case, 12 ends with a 2, 26 ends with a 6. Even numbers, remember, they end in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. That's how you know if a number is even. So, because 12/26 are both even, I can divide top and bottom by 2. Remember, you are making this entire page look like this, so you will probably have to pause this video numerous times to get all the writing down. In order to simplify 12/26, I need to say what number times 2 equals 12? That's a 6. What number times 2 equals 26? Well, it could be you don't know that, so you have to do some long division. This is why we learn long division before we do fractions. 2 times 1 is 2. Bring down the 6. 3 times 2 is 6. So, what number times 2 will give me 26? 13. That is in simplest form. 12/26 is not. Another way that you can look at a fraction, let's say it's 12/27. 12 times nothing is 27, so my first rule, my first question doesn't work. My second question doesn't work because 27 isn't even. So then I have to say, does 3 times anything equal the top, and does 3 times something different equal the bottom? In this case, it does. I know. So I can divide my numerator and my denominator by 3. 4 times 3 is 12. 9 times 3 is 27. This is in simplest form. 12/27 is not. Okay, let's say top number times nothing equals the bottom. They're not both even. And 3 times nothing equals 40. Well, the next question I ask them, do they end in a 5 or 0? In other words, does 5 times anything equal both of them? Absolutely. 5 times 3 gives me 15. 5 times 8 gives me 40. 15/40 can be simplified down to 3/8. Well, what if 28 times nothing is 56? What if they're both even numbers, but maybe I don't notice that? And I say, well, 3 times nothing, they don't end up with a 5 or a 0. But 7 times something does equal both of them. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 8 is 56. Hey, wait a minute. 4 times something still equals 8. This is not in simplest form. I still need to go another step to get this in simplest form, which is 1/2. Now that I see this as 1/2, I could play and go back and say, really? If I take 56 and divide it into 2 sections, does it indeed come out to be 28? Yes, it does. So I could have divided top and bottom by 28 immediately without having to do another step to get it in simplest form. It is important after you finish with your first division, if you recognize that your new fraction is not in simplest form, you must do another set of division as often as it takes to get it into simplest form. What about if you get a number like 45/54? Well, you can't forget that you might have 9 as a common factor. 9 times 5 is 45. 9 times 6 is 54. Now, remember I said you might have to simplify a second time? One way that you know your number, your fraction, is in simplest form, if there is a 1 as the numerator, it is always simplest form. If your numerator is 1 smaller than your denominator, you can be sure you have simplest form. There is one other step that you need to take. It could be that you have other common factors that you would find in the fraction, but as 5th graders, usually you're not going to have common factors that are much more than 9. Why? Because they don't expect you to know much more than your 9 times tables, unless they're wanting to be a little bit tricky. One more thing you have to do to check if you have simplest form is see if the top number is smaller than the bottom number. If it's not, if we had 10/9, there's a bit of different math to do that we will talk about later. But right now, in your assignment yesterday, you did have 9/9. And so, what amount is simpler than saying I have something split into 9 pieces and I have all 9? Hopefully by now you're beginning to recognize if the top number is the same size as the bottom number, that means it's split into this many pieces, but I have all of those pieces, so I have one whole amount. You need to be sure that you have this information copied down into your folder. I'll zoom it out a bit. So you need all this information copied into your folder, and you need a smaller version without the examples on a sticky note. This sticky note needs to be carried with you to your math assignments. So if you don't have this page, pause the video, get everything copied down. The next thing that I'm going to tell you to do on this video is go back to your answers on 621. Take your sticky note with you and look at your final answers. I asked you to circle them, so they should be pretty easy to find. With those final answers, see if you can find any that need simplified and simplify them. I will show you the simplification and your assignment in the next video. So you look at page 621 and get any simplifying that you need.